Chapter 2. A Missionary House. E.T. drove the pickup into the yard of his house. Dorothy and I got off the tailgate, rubbed our bruised derrieres, and stumbled into the house, helping E.T. and Vera unload the stuff they had brought. There were wooden boxes nailed and bound with hemp, which Vera called kerosene boxes, but not because they had kerosene in them now. They were sacks of staples such as flour, lentils, beans, and macaroni. There were enough machine parts to repair every gadget and tool and vehicle west of the Andes, which in fact E.T. probably intended to do. There were baskets of brightly enameled plates and cups, stainless steel spoons, aluminum kettles of graduated sizes, and there were steel drums of gasoline, sheets of corrugated roofing, and an old, battered suitcase. The house was totally dark, but Vera lit 2 small kerosene lamps, lampilleras they are called, and as my eyes became adjusted to the dim light, I saw that the house that they called home was a hovel. The missionaries I had known in Quito lived in pleasant, comfortable adobe houses, with whitewashed walls and polished wood or tile floors. They had furniture, rugs, and pictures. I expected jungle missionaries to live differently, but not this differently. A grass hut, natural and harmonious and fitting in these surroundings, would not have shocked me. But here was squalor. The house was a sketchy wooden structure, unpainted, and so far as I could tell in the dim light, black. There seemed to be 4 rooms, each opening into the next, with no hallways or center. Vera told Dorothy and me which was ours, pointed out laughingly that there was no door on it, or on any of the other rooms, only curtains for privacy. "Don't mind us, we're just Grand Central Station here," she said, and for a second I wished I could catch the next train. We found our way to bed. The next day we had a better look around. The house was indeed black, unpainted wood that had blackened with the dampness and mildew. There were 4 children who appeared to belong to E.T. and Vera, though no introductions were made, and the children did not seem to speak much English. 1 or 2 other people who apparently lived in the house spoke no English. Where they all slept remained a mystery. We had one of the bedrooms. There was a sort of kitchen living room, and we assumed the other 2 curtains hid bedrooms. The house was furnished with the barest essentials of tables and chairs or benches of shoddy construction, and Vera cooked on a fognon, a sort of sandbox on legs with a fire built on it. Smoke filled the house. I wanted to get out of this place. The depression it brought me made me feel guilty, for I thought at the time that the ugliness and squalor and lack of privacy were sacrifices appropriate for a servant of the Lord. If I did not like the atmosphere, it must mean that I was not yet prepared to lay down my life as I had promised. The children depressed me. They ought to have spoken to a guest in English, but they spoke hardly at all, and always in Spanish. They looked peaked and grubby. They wore no shoes, and their clothes hung on their thin little frames in a most pathetic way. Urchins they were, like their only friends, the town urchins. Identification was the idea, I told myself, and it seemed a good principle, but when I saw this demonstration of it in practice, something seemed awry. The yard around the house was practically bald of grass. There were a few tufts in the fence corners, but the rest was slick, hard-packed mud, covered with a greenish, scabby crust. There was an outhouse used by the family, a crazy tall shack emitting a most lethal effluvium, but a steady parade of townspeople were making use of an empty lot next door as a bathroom. They were not seeking privacy, that was obvious, but only space, and judging by the caution with which they stepped, there was little enough of that remaining. I persuaded Dorothy to go out for a walk. Vera was busy in the kitchen and said she did not need our help. Visitors were coming and going, some of them helping Vera, some of them talking, asking for things, bringing things. The children were in and out. E.T. was hammering on something. I wanted only to get out of all this for a little while. We wandered through Santo Domingo de los Colorados. The place looked like a set for a Hollywood Western. There was a big empty square or plaza, mostly of mud, in the center of town, which had a few feeble canas, a banana tree, with shredded leaves, and a scraggly palm trying its best to grow. Wooden buildings faced the square, thatched or roofed with rusted corrugated iron. The roofs extended to form a covered walkway. The shop doors were wide open, the wares stacked and festooned in the doorways in a jumble of color and tawdriness. The streets were sloughs of deeply rutted mud, with standing pools of water. On one side of the plaza, a row of banana trucks was parked. Men were loading bananas into them from the backs of mules and donkeys and from wooden carts. They were American trucks, I could see from the make of the hoods, but ungainly wooden bodies had been built onto the chassis and painted bright blue, bright red, pink, yellow, and green, and decorated with pictures, curlicues, mottos, and names such as Hitler, Mother of God, Little Angel, the Bull, or Sacred Heart of Jesus. I came to realize later the huge importance of these trucks. They were the very heart and life of the Western jungle. A man might go into terrible debt for many years in order to buy one, and when he had it, he gave himself to it with utter slavish devotion. He named it, first of all, giving it a name of power and protection. This bull, or Mother of God, would call forth all of his courage and strength and love, and would in turn transport and support him, enable and ennoble him, and make him powerful and influential and capable of moving people, of lifting up one and putting down another. There would be no town of Santo Domingo de los Colorados if there were no trucks, and the mayor himself was, like everybody, at the mercy of the truck drivers. In addition to the pickup we had come down in, E.T. had a banana truck. It was a big one, painted and named, although I've forgotten what name he gave it, perhaps the Evangelist. As time went on, it appeared that E.T. had a great many things going besides his missionary work. In fact, there seemed to be less of the missionary business than met the eye. He had a way of picking up odd jobs here and there, dubious of profit-making pursuits, but very profitable, he claimed, as contacts. A missionary is supposed to make contacts, to get acquainted with people in order to give them his message, and there are many byways. As to the question of legal permission to conduct business on a missionary's visa, E.T. was not at all bothered. The Lord took care of the details. Dorothy and I did the whole town in an hour. It was not much of a place. It had little interest and nothing whatever of beauty. I could not help admitting to myself that I was deeply thankful that God had not appointed me to work here. E.T. and Vera apparently were the appointees, and I was glad of that.